She thought your silence was weakness. She thought walking away meant surrender. But what she never realized is that silence is the most brutal weapon of all. Words fade. Anger burns out. Even revenge eventually exhausts itself. But silence lingers. It echoes in the mind long after you've gone. It becomes a ghost, whispering the quiet moments of her life, reminding her of the man she lost and the empire he built without her. Welcome to Be Stoic. In this video, we reveal the darkest Stoic weapon you'll ever hold, indifference sharpened into silence. This isn't healing. This isn't forgiveness. This is punishment through absence. And when you master it, she won't just remember you. She'll regret losing you. The context: why silence cuts deeper than words. Let's begin with a truth that no one wants to hear. You don't destroy someone by shouting. You destroy them by disappearing. Think about it. When you argue, you give her energy. When you beg, you give her validation. When you insult, you give her proof that you still care. But when you fall silent, when you walk away without a word, without explanation, without closure, you strip her of everything. You rob her the stage she craves, the reaction she wants, the drama she feeds on. You leave her with one enemy she can't escape: her own mind. That's the essence of dark Stoicism, not the gentle, forgiving Stoicism that preaches peace in every circumstance. But the darker truth, that your refusal to engage becomes the heaviest punishment. Imagine her checking her phone at midnight, scrolling, waiting, hoping for your reply that never comes. Every hour that passes without your words is another dagger twisting in her chest. That's not silence. That's psychological warfare. And here's the truth. A Stoic man knows that silence is not empty. It's full of power. Stoicism in the shadow of indifference. The great Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." But what happens when we take that further? When we not only refuse to become like them, but refuse to acknowledge them at all? That's not forgiveness. That's erasure. That's making their existence irrelevant in your world. And here's where dark Stoicism lives. It doesn't scream. It doesn't argue. It doesn't strike back. It just vanishes, leaving behind a silence that haunts louder than thunder. Why men break, and how Stoics refuse. Most men crack when betrayed. They chase. They beg. They lash out. But a Stoic man, he doesn't fight for attention. He doesn't fight to be heard. He doesn't fight to explain himself, because he knows the truth. Explanation is weakness. If she didn't value you when you were present, no words will change that when you're gone. If she played games when you were near, no speech will bring back her respect. So you choose silence, not because you can't speak, but because speaking is beneath you. Right now, some of you are thinking, "But won't she forget me if I stay silent?" And that's exactly the point. She won't forget. She'll replay every memory, every mistake, every regret, over and over again, because you didn't give her the final scene. You cut the movie short. You left her in the dark theater with nothing but silence. That's the punishment, the dark weight of silence. Let's get psychological. When you walk away in silence, you're denying her three things. Closure. The story never ends. It just hangs in the air. She's trapped in unfinished business. Control. She can't push your buttons anymore, can't trigger your emotions, can't predict your moves. Validation. Every human craves being acknowledged. By refusing to acknowledge her, you erase her existence in your empire. And that's worse than any insult, because insults fade, but being erased, that burns forever. Stoic masculinity in darkness. A Stoic man doesn't just walk away. He walks away with dignity, silence, and focus. He channels what she thought was weakness into a weapon of power. While she's haunted by silence, you're building your empire. While she's replaying conversations in her head, you're living without her in reality. While she's imagining scenarios where you come back, you've already moved so far ahead that her memory of you is just a shadow. This is not healing. This is revenge without revenge. This is the art of punishment without lifting a finger. She wanted a reaction. She wanted tears. She wanted anger. But what she got was nothing. And nothing is terrifying. Nothing is unforgettable. Nothing is your weapon now. In the next section, we'll go deeper. We'll uncover how the greatest Stoic thinkers, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, left behind clues to this dark path, not the light of peace, but the shadow of indifference. Because when you understand philosophy, you'll never see silence the same way again. Stay with me, because this is only the beginning. Part 2, the philosophy of dark Stoicism. Most people think Stoicism is about peace, patience, and forgiveness. They imagine Marcus Aurelius sitting calmly, smiling at the chaos of the world. They picture Seneca preaching mercy. They hear Epictetus reminding us that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it. But there's a side of Stoicism they don't teach you in school, a side the philosophers knew but never sugarcoated, a darker side, a truth so sharp it cuts deeper than vengeance. Indifference, not calmness, not kindness, but the ruthless ability to erase someone from your emotional universe. You see, forgiveness frees them, anger fuels them, but indifference crushes them because it tells them they never mattered at all. Marcus Aurelius in The Shadow of Revenge. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Most men read this and think, so I should take the high road, be kind, be better. But a darker reading exists. Not to be like your enemy means to strip them of the power they think they hold. If they scream, you stay silent. If they beg for a reaction, you vanish. If they try to spark fire, you give them ice. That is not forgiveness. That is the weaponization of detachment. Marcus Aurelius didn't win battles by being everyone's friend. He won by standing like a mountain, unmoved by storms. And when you stand unmoved in silence, those who try to shake you collapse under their own weakness. Seneca and the theater of silence. Seneca taught that life is short, and wasting it on trivial people is the ultimate crime. Now imagine applying that ruthlessly. A woman betrays you, mocks you, disrespects you. You could argue. You could fight. You could write long paragraphs explaining your pain. But what would Seneca say? He'd say, "Time is too precious to waste on the unworthy." Every second you spend explaining yourself to someone who doesn't value you is a second stolen from your empire. So you do what Seneca would do. You cut the cord. You fall silent. You leave her drowning in unanswered questions while you rise higher. Epictetus and the chains of desire. Epictetus was born a slave, yet became one of the most unshakable philosophers in history. He taught one lesson above all. You are disturbed not by things, but by the view you take of them. Now, let's sharpen this into the dark Stoic blade. If you can master your view, then you can master your silence. If you can kill your need to be heard, then no one can chain you with their words. And if you can walk away in indifference, you become untouchable. Think of this. The moment you silence yourself, you silence her control. The moment you detach, you watch her attachment grow. Because now, the chains are reversed. She's the one enslaved by the silence you command. She thought you'd chase. She thought you'd explain. She thought you'd break. But what she never expected was the wall of silence. And now that wall lives in her mind, towering higher every day. Let's be clear. Stoicism is not soft. It was never soft. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations on battlefields, drenched in blood. Seneca wrote about life's brevity while serving a tyrant who later forced him to take his own life. Epictetus forged his philosophy while enduring slavery and chains. These were not men sipping tea in quiet gardens. These were men who looked darkness in the eye and refused to flinch. So when we apply Stoicism to betrayal, heartbreak, or disrespect, we don't apply it as forgive and forget. We apply it as erase and transcend, not with noise, not with anger, but with silence. Wise silence is the darkest Stoic weapon. It denies closure. Humans crave endings. By refusing to give one, you force her to live in uncertainty. It denies validation. Most women want to know they mattered, even in hate. Your silence denies her that completely. It denies control. Arguments can be manipulated. Conversations can be twisted. Silence cannot. And here's the truth. Silence is permanent. Because once you master it, once you walk away, you're not pretending. You're gone. Picture this. She goes out, she smiles, she posts pictures. But in her quiet moments, when no one is watching, she's haunted. Not by your words, not by your anger, but by your silence. The dark Stoic code. So here's the code of dark Stoicism. Do not beg. Do not argue. Do not explain. Do not give her the gift of your voice. Instead, walk away with silence. Because silence is the only answer that can't be debated. It's the only response that cannot be undone. And here's the brutal truth. She can fight your words. She can fight your anger. But she cannot fight your silence. Now you understand the philosophy. You see how Marcus Seneca and Epictetus, though clothed in wisdom, left behind a blueprint for something darker. Indifference, detachment, erasure. In the next part, we'll go deeper. We'll step into her mind. We'll uncover the psychological punishment of silence. What really happens to her when you disappear. Because silence isn't just absence. It's presence in its most terrifying form. Part 3. The psychological punishment of silence. Revenge is loud. Anger is loud. But silence? Silence is a whisper that never stops. It doesn't scream at her. It echoes inside her. It doesn't break her quickly. It corrodes her slowly, day by day, night by night, until the quiet becomes unbearable. Because here's the truth. When you go silent, you don't leave her in peace. You leave her in pieces. She expected your anger. She expected your begging. She expected your pain. What she never expected was nothing. And now that nothing is everything, it's the ghost that sleeps beside her at night. Psychologists know something simple but terrifying. The human mind craves closure. We want endings. We want explanations. When we don't get them, our brain becomes trapped in loops. We replay conversations. We analyze details. We invent answers that don't exist. So when you cut her off in silence, you don't give her peace. You hand her a prison where the walls are made of unanswered questions, and the guard is her own mind. The cycle of punishment. Here's how it unfolds. Shock. At first, she thinks it's temporary. She assumes you'll return. Silence feels like a pause, not an ending. Denial. Days go by. She convinces herself you're just angry, that you'll eventually break. She tells her friends, he'll come back. He always does. Paranoia. Weeks pass. Your silence grows heavier. She starts checking her phone every 5 minutes, scrolling through old messages, analyzing every word you once said. Regret. Now the silence cuts deeper. She replays her mistakes, her disrespect, her betrayal. She wonders, was it me? Did I push him too far? Obsession. Finally, the silence consumes her. She doesn't just miss you. She's haunted by you, not because you spoke, but because you didn't. And here's the darkest truth. This cycle has no ending because you never gave her one. Anger dies. Closure heals. But silence is eternal. It doesn't let her move on. It doesn't let her forget. It forces her to live forever with the ghost of you, the phantom of absence. Imagine this. She's at a party. She's laughing, smiling, pretending she's happy. But then her phone buzzes. For a split second, her heart stops. She thinks it's you, but it's not. That rush of hope, followed by crushing disappointment, that's the ghost of your silence. She's lying in bed. She scrolls through pictures of you both together. She types out a message, then erases it. Because deep down, she knows you won't respond. That shame, that fear, that regret, that's the knife of your silence twisting deeper. The female psychology of silence. Here's what most men don't understand. Women crave validation even from the men they reject. She may have betrayed you, disrespected you, even discarded you, but still, she wants to know she mattered. When you go silent, you deny her that completely. You don't just walk away. You delete her importance. You erase her from your emotional universe. And that terrifies her more than hate, because hate means you still care. But silence means she never existed. She'll tell people you're cold. She'll call you heartless. But deep down, she knows the truth. You're not heartless. You're just finished. And nothing destroys a woman more than knowing you're done without a word. Silence versus revenge. Let's compare. If you insult her, she has a story to tell her friends. He lost it. He was bitter. If you beg, she gains power. He still wants me. If you try to make her jealous, she feels validated. I still affect him. But when you're silent, she has nothing. No story. No proof. No drama. Only a void. And here's the dark beauty of it. That void eats her alive. The endless question. Silence leaves behind one unkillable question. What if? What if you come back? What if she pushed you too far? What if she lost the best thing she'll ever have? That question never leaves. It becomes a scar. And every new man she meets will be measured against the shadow of the man who walked away in silence. Every time she hears silence, she'll think of you. Every unanswered call, every empty night, every quiet room, your absence will scream louder than your presence ever did. The psychological mastery of a Stoic man. A true Stoic doesn't beg for respect. He doesn't chase closure. He doesn't explain his worth. He lets silence speak for him. Because silence says, I don't need you. You're irrelevant. My empire is bigger than your betrayal. And that message cuts deeper than any insult ever could. So far, we've uncovered how silence is more than absence. It's psychological punishment. It traps her in loops of regret, obsession, and fear. It denies her closure, control, and validation. But now we turn the lens on you. Because silence isn't just about her suffering. It's about your rise. In the next part, we'll explore the male journey into power. Why the man who can walk away in silence is feared, respected, and remembered. And why in the darkness of indifference you become untouchable. Part 4, the male journey into power. Every betrayal is a test. Most men fail it. They cry. They beg. They rage. They let their emotions spill into the hands of the very woman who disrespected them. And in doing so, they hand her power. But a Stoic man, a dark Stoic, he doesn't stumble. He doesn't collapse. He doesn't perform for her amusement. He walks away, silent, cold, unmoved. And in that silence, he begins his transformation. Because while she's haunted by the absence, he's building something greater. An empire born from betrayal. She lost you, but you didn't just lose her. You found yourself. And the man who finds himself is a man no one can control. When most men are betrayed, they waste energy on chasing closure. But you redirect that fire. Every ounce of anger, every drop of pain, every restless night. You take it and forge it into strength. The gym becomes your sanctuary. Discipline becomes your ally. Ambition becomes your weapon. Because here's the truth. The greatest men in history were shaped by betrayal, rejection, and loss. What destroyed ordinary men built extraordinary ones. Marcus Aurelius fought wars while mourning the loss of children. Seneca wrote wisdom while serving a tyrant who hated him. Epictetus turned slavery into philosophy. Pain is the forge. Silence is the hammer. And out of that fire, you rise harder, colder, untouchable. The masculine archetype of silence. There's something deeply masculine about silence. It's primal. It's commanding. It's feared. The lion does not roar at flies. The king does not explain his decrees. The emperor does not justify his throne. And you don't explain why you walked away. You don't announce your absence. You vanish. And in that vanishing, you become more powerful than ever. Because here's what no one tells you. Silence makes her imagination do the work for you. And her imagination is crueler than anything you could ever say. She's lying awake at night, wondering, did he move on? Is he happier? Is he with someone better? She doesn't know. And that not knowing is killing her. While she's lost in questions, you're too busy building answers in your own life. Fear, respect, and the untouchable man. The man who can stay silent after betrayal commands a fear most men will never know. Not because he's violent, not because he's cruel, but because he's untouchable. Women fear men who are silent because silence cannot be manipulated. You can't argue with it. You can't twist it. You can't seduce it. You can't win against it. And in that fear grows respect. Because every time she remembers you, she doesn't remember your weakness. She remembers the wall you built, a wall she could never climb. The rise of the dark Stoic king. Think of betrayal as exile. She thought she banished you, but in reality, you left her kingdom to build your own. Now picture it. While she's replaying old memories, you're stacking victories. While she's wondering if you miss her, you're leveling up in silence. While she's clinging to the past, you're forging a future. And one day, your empire will be undeniable. She'll see it. She'll hear of it. And the regret will crush her like a collapsing ceiling. Because here's the truth. The king doesn't send letters to the traitor. He builds a throne so high that she can only look up and weep. She thought she could replace you. She thought you'd come crawling back. But instead, you disappeared and became everything she can never touch again. That is silent revenge. That is dark stoicism. The masculine journey through silence. There are stages every man must walk when he chooses silence. Detachment. Cutting the cord, refusing to explain, embracing the void. Discipline. Channeling pain into action, energy into creation, time into growth. Dominion. Rising above, creating an empire that proves she was never the center of your life. Divinity. Becoming so far removed, so elevated, that in her eyes, you're no longer a man, you're a legend. This is the male journey into power, not through shouting, not through vengeance, but through silence. Stories of silent power. History is full of men who punished not with words, but with silence. Marcus Aurelius didn't waste energy condemning traitors. He outlived them, outshined them. Epictetus refused to hate his slave masters. He simply became greater than them. Seneca didn't fight back against Nero's cruelty. His writings outlived the tyrant's name. The lesson? The man who says nothing often speaks the loudest. Asterisk, and here's the part you'll never understand. You never needed her apology. You never needed her attention. You never needed her closure. Because your silence wasn't about her. It was about you. And in that silence, you became untouchable. Asterisk. So far, we've seen silence as a weapon against her mind, and as a forge of your own rise into power. But now, it's time to apply this philosophy to the battlefield of today, modern dating. Because in the age of social media, constant texting, and endless attention-seeking, silence has become more terrifying than ever. In Part 5, we'll break down why silence in modern dating is the deadliest move you can make, and why women secretly fear the man who refuses to play the game. Part 5, Silence in Modern Dating. She posts, she texts, she calls. And when nothing comes back, when her efforts vanish into a black hole, the silence becomes unbearable. In today's world, words are cheap. Messages fly back and forth. Emojis replace real emotions, and constant contact has become the default setting. Everyone is always reachable, always online, always visible. That's why silence in modern dating is not just rare, it's terrifying. Because silence means something she cannot control. It means you've stepped outside her reach. It means you've chosen indifference over reaction. And in the battlefield of modern relationships, silence is not passivity. It is power. The no contact rule, more than a game. You've probably heard of the no contact rule. Social media is flooded with advice about going no contact after a breakup, about cutting communication so that she misses you. But most men get it wrong. They treat it like a game. They wait a week, 2 weeks, then break. They watch her status updates. They check if she's online. They lurk in the shadows of her digital life. That is not silence. That is obsession disguised as strategy. The Stoic silence is different. It is not about making her miss you. It is about making her irrelevant to your path forward. No texts, no calls, no watching her stories, no stalking her page. Silence is not simply not talking. Silence is not caring. And when you truly don't care, when you walk away and build your empire, she feels the weight of that indifference more than she ever would 1,000 angry messages. Why women fear silence? Let's cut through the sugarcoating. Women are not used to silence from men they've had power over. They are used to being begged for closure. They are used to men chasing, apologizing, trying to prove worth. But when you don't beg, when you don't react, when you don't even acknowledge, it forces her to face something darker than rejection, irrelevance. Because here's the truth. Most women would rather be hated than ignored. Hatred means you're still invested. Hatred means they still live in your mind. Silence means they're erased. And in the psychology of modern dating, erasure is the deepest wound. Social media, the stage of silence. In the ancient world, silence was physical. Letters went unanswered, doors closed, meetings refused. Today, silence plays out in a digital coliseum. Social media has turned relationships into performances. Likes, comments, shares, and DMs. This is the new currency of attention. So when you withdraw completely, when you give her nothing, it's like pulling the spotlight off her in the middle of her act. Imagine this. She posts a story, expecting you to watch. You don't. She uploads a picture, hoping you'll react. You don't. She sends a casual message, waiting for your reply. You don't. And while the crowd claps, while others cheer, the only silence that matters is yours. Because it's not that you didn't see it. It's that you chose not to care. The echo chamber of regret. Here's what silence does. It creates an echo chamber in her mind. Every word she once said, every decision she once made, now bounces back at her. Was I wrong to let him go? Does he even think about me? Why hasn't he reached out? Has he moved on? Who is he with now? And with every unanswered question, her imagination sharpens the blade. The silence doesn't just leave her wondering. It forces her to supply her own torture. She fills the void with doubt, paranoia, and regret. And here's the beautiful cruelty. You don't have to lift a finger. Your silence does the work. Silence versus words. Men often think that saying the perfect thing, delivering the perfect insult, or proving their worth with words will leave an impact. But words fade. Words can be twisted. Words can be mocked. Silence, however, cannot be twisted. It cannot be mocked. It cannot be erased. Silence is not just the absence of noise. It's the presence of power. And in dating, silence doesn't just speak louder than words. It speaks eternally. Every time she looks at her phone and sees nothing from you, that silence repeats itself. Over and over, day after day, words echo once. Silence echoes forever. The masculine ideal, Stoic indifference. Modern dating has created an illusion where attention equals value. Men are trained to prove themselves through endless attention, validation, and pursuit. But the Stoic man flips the script. The Stoic man's silence says, I do not need you to validate me. I do not need closure from you. I do not need to explain myself. I do not need to fight for what's already gone. That is masculinity in its rawest form, a refusal to be controlled by craving or fear. And women feel it. They sense it. They cannot escape it. Because in a world where men are desperate for attention, the man who withdraws becomes a ghost king. Untouchable, unforgettable, unstoppable. Silence in the face of provocation. Here's where dark stoicism reveals its sharpest edge. When you go silent, she may try to provoke you. She may test you. A message here, a picture there, maybe even another man paraded in front of you to spark jealousy. But the silence must remain unbroken. Because the moment you react, you show that she still has a hold on you, that her actions still dictate your emotions. But when you remain silent, even in the face of her noise, you send a message she cannot escape. You no longer matter. And that cuts deeper than any revenge. The Ghost King archetype. There's a reason women remember the men who disappear. The men who begged are forgotten. The men who argued are mocked. The men who tried to prove themselves are laughed at. But the men who vanish, the men who say nothing, the men who never look back, they are remembered forever. Because silence creates mystery. Silence creates power. Silence makes her wonder, did I lose something irreplaceable? Will he ever come back? Why does it still hurt? You become the Ghost King. Not present, not reachable, but always haunting. In modern dating, silence wins because it shifts the balance of power. It moves you from reactive to untouchable. It forces her to battle herself instead of battling you. And most importantly, it keeps your energy where it belongs, on you, not on her. She may regret, she may beg, she may try to return, but by the time she does, you've already built something greater. You've already risen higher. You've already become untouchable. And that is the essence of dark Stoicism. You punish not by harming her, but by refusing to let her matter. If this message is hitting deep, remember, you're not watching by accident. You're here because you're ready to transform. You're ready to step into silence, into power, into indifference. This is Be Stoic, where silence is not weakness but empire. Subscribe now. Stay silent. Stay strong. Part 6. Building an Empire in Silence. She's awake at night, scrolling, wondering, replaying memories like broken film reels. She waits for a message that will never come, for a word that will never arrive, for closure that will never be delivered. And while her nights are haunted, your days are filled with something far greater. Because silence isn't just about punishing her, it's about building you. When you go silent, you don't just create absence in her life. You create presence in your own. All the energy you once poured into chasing, explaining, apologizing, begging now belongs to you. Silence is withdrawal. Silence is redirection. Silence is transformation. In modern dating, silence is seen as punishment, but in dark Stoicism, silence is rebirth. Because every ounce of time and effort you withhold from her is reinvested into your empire. What is an empire? It isn't just wealth. It isn't just status. It isn't just power over others. Your empire begins within. The first walls are built when you regain control of your mind, when you stop checking your phone for her messages, when you stop stalking her social media, when you stop needing her validation to feel alive. The second walls are built when you redirect your discipline, when your mornings are spent training instead of waiting, when your nights are spent studying instead of scrolling, when your focus returns to building, not begging. And the final walls, the indestructible fortress, are built when you live in such a way that her memory becomes irrelevant. That is the empire of the Stoic man, the law of silence. Absence creates space. Here's what most men never realize. Silence creates space. And in that space, you can either wither in self-pity or you can grow into something unstoppable. While she's busy filling the void with regret, you're filling your silence with mastery. She's distracted. You're focused. She's chasing validation. You're chasing excellence. She's haunted by the past. You're building the future. This is the true revenge. Not proving her wrong with words, but proving yourself right with action. Ghosting is often seen as childish, immature, cowardly, but the dark Stoic ghosting is not about immaturity. It's about discipline. You're not ghosting to avoid responsibility. You're ghosting because there's nothing left to say, because she no longer belongs in your empire. And in silence, you practice something most men can't handle: delayed gratification. Because silence doesn't give you instant satisfaction. It doesn't give you the dopamine of sending an angry text or the relief of demanding closure. Silence gives you nothing in the short term, but in the long term, silence gives you everything. Empires are built in silence. Think of the greatest empires in history: Rome, Persia, Egypt. None of them were built overnight. None of them were built through constant chatter. They were built through patience, strategy, and silence. No king reveals every plan. No emperor broadcasts his every move. No conqueror announces his next step. Empires are not built in noise. They are built in silence. And so must you.
Every silent day you spend training, she wonders. Every silent hour you spend building, she regrets. Every silent choice you make to rise, she obsesses. Your silence becomes both your construction and her destruction. When you go silent, you shift from reactive to proactive. You are no longer a man chained to the whims of a woman's attention. You are no longer a man begging for scraps of validation. You are no longer a man haunted by her absence. You become a man who creates, who builds, who rises. That shift, the masculine shift, is what transforms silence into an empire. Because you stop asking, "What will she think?" and start asking, "What can I build?" The Ghost King's Empire. The Ghost King does not roar. He does not announce. He does not explain. He disappears. He builds. He rises. And when she hears of him again, it is not through his words, it is through his empire, through his presence, through his power. Imagine this. Months pass. She hears your name, but now it is attached to success, to discipline, to achievements she never thought you were capable of. That silence becomes the loudest declaration of all. I did not need you to become who I am. Silence as self-investment. Every man has a choice. Waste energy on the past or invest energy into the future. When you choose silence, you're choosing investment. Investment in your body. Investment in your mind. Investment in your craft. Investment in your empire. And here's the dark irony. The more you invest in silence, the louder your success becomes. Because she will hear of it. Maybe from friends. Maybe from whispers. Maybe from the glow of your achievements she cannot escape. And when she realizes that your silence was not emptiness, but evolution, that regret will burn her deeper than any revenge you could have spoken. Why empires outlast lovers? Here's the truth most men refuse to face. Women can come and go, but empires endure. Empires are legacies. They outlive heartbreak. They outlast betrayal. They survive silence. When you build your empire in silence, you anchor yourself in something unshakable. Something no rejection, no insult, no betrayal can destroy. And while she regrets, you reign. Your silence is not her punishment. It's your rebirth. While she's haunted by memories, you're building a future. Empires are not built by men who talk. They are built by men who vanish, then return with power. The Ghost King is not remembered for his words. He is remembered for his empire. If this is cutting deep, then you already know this is no ordinary channel. This is not healing. This is not sugarcoating. This is power, raw and unfiltered. Part 7. Dark Stoic Power Moves. Silence is not random. It is not accidental. It is not weakness. Silence, when wielded correctly, is a weapon. And like all weapons, it must be sharpened, aimed, and unleashed with discipline. This is where most men fail. They go silent for a week, then break. They want her to notice, to chase, to come crawling back. That is not dark stoicism. That is manipulation fueled by desperation. The Stoic silence does not chase. It does not expect. It does not beg. The Stoic silence destroys. And to destroy with silence, you need power moves, actions that don't just create absence, but build fear, regret, and obsession in her mind. Power move number 1, the clean cut. Never underestimate the power of a clean cut. No explanations. No speeches. No final messages filled with emotion. Just withdrawal. She texts. Silence. She calls. Silence. She begs for closure. Silence. The clean cut is the ultimate show of control. Because most men can't do it. Most men need to speak their truth, vent their anger, explain their pain. But the man who gives nothing? He becomes the nightmare. Because she's not haunted by what you said, she's haunted by what you didn't say. Power move number 2, the digital death. In modern dating, the battlefield is digital. Social media keeps you tethered. It gives her constant access to your life. She can see your stories, your posts, your presence. That's why one of the most devastating power moves is the digital death. You don't block her. Blocking shows anger. Blocking shows reaction. No, you simply vanish. Unfollow. Mute. Restrict. Disappear without explanation. Now she posts for an audience you're no longer part of. She screams into a void where your eyes will never be. She cannot control it. She cannot spin it. She cannot escape it. You've digitally died in her world, and that absence becomes unbearable. Power move number 3, the silent return. This is not for the weak. This is for the disciplined. The silent return means that after vanishing, after building your empire, after letting months pass in absolute indifference, you reappear. Not with words, not with messages, but with presence. a picture of your progress, a glimpse of your success, a life she no longer belongs to. And here's the cruelty. You don't post to bait her. You post because it's your life now. You don't even think of her. But when she sees it, when she realizes your silence created a new version of you she can never touch again, the regret becomes unbearable. Power move number 4. The unanswered door. She will come back. They always come back. Maybe out of guilt. Maybe out of curiosity. Maybe out of sheer regret. But here's the move. You do not open the door. Not physically. Not emotionally. Not digitally. She knocks. She calls. She asks for just one talk. But your silence is the answer. The unanswered door tells her the truth she can't bear. She no longer has access to your life. And that's when the silence turns from absence into prison. Power move number 5. The controlled glimpse. This is advanced. This is precise. This is surgical. You don't flaunt. You don't overpost. You don't seek her attention. Instead, you drop a single glimpse of your empire. Subtle, controlled, cold. Not a post about moving on. Not a post aimed at her. Just a glimpse of your progress. Something undeniable. Something untouchable. A new project. A new achievement. A new level of discipline. This is not for her, it's for you. But when she sees it, when she realizes she's watching a man who no longer belongs to her world, the silence becomes deafening. Power move number 6. The iron frame. The iron frame means you remain unshaken, no matter what she does. She flirts with other men. Silence. She tries to provoke jealousy. Silence. She spreads lies about you. Silence. Your frame doesn't bend. You don't respond. You don't defend yourself. You don't engage. Because you know the truth. The man who cannot be shaken by noise is the man who cannot be destroyed. And in time, everyone sees it. She sees it. Her friends see it. The world sees it. Your silence becomes your iron. Power move number 7. The indifference test. This is where silence transforms from punishment into proof. When she tries to return, when she tests if she still has access, you meet her with indifference. Not anger. Not love. Not hate. Just nothing. A calm "I'm busy." A polite nod. Or even pure silence. Because indifference is not the opposite of love. Indifference is the death of it. And when she feels that, when she realizes she no longer has the power to move you, the regret crushes her soul. Why these moves work? All of these power moves rest on one truth. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is control. When you stay silent, you're not reacting, you're ruling. When you withdraw, you're not losing, you're gaining. When you refuse to engage, you're not weak, you're untouchable. And women, especially in modern dating, are addicted to control.
They thrive on reaction. They feed on attention. So when you starve them of that, when you give them nothing, you strip away their weapon. They become powerless, and you become powerful. Your silence is not avoidance. It's domination. Every unanswered call is a reminder. She no longer has access. The man who cannot be provoked is the man who cannot be broken. You don't win with revenge. You win with silence. Indifference is the final blow. Not love, not hate, nothing. You are not here by chance. You are here because you feel it, because you've been burned, betrayed, disrespected. And you're ready to turn that pain into power. This is Be Stoic, where silence is not surrender. It's empire. Subscribe. Stay cold. Stay untouchable. She thought you would beg. She thought you would chase. She thought you would crumble without her presence. But instead you chose silence. And that silence, it became her ghost. The haunting truth. Revenge burns fast. Words fade quickly. Even anger eventually cools. But silence, true, disciplined, unbreakable silence, never disappears. It stays. It lingers. It festers. Every time she checks her phone, the silence is there. Every time she wonders what you're doing, the silence answers. Every time she questions if she made a mistake, the silence screams louder than any insult. Because silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of indifference. Why she regrets. She regrets not because you punish her with rage, not because you hurt her with insults, but because you erased her with silence. She regrets because she realizes something every woman fears. She no longer matters to you. She regrets because your silence is proof you become untouchable. She regrets because while she sought attention, you sought power. She regrets because while she clung to validation, you built an empire, and that regret is eternal. The dark Stoic philosophy. This is the essence of dark Stoicism. It isn't about becoming emotionless. It isn't about suppressing who you are. It isn't about pretending you don't feel. It's about mastering your emotions so fully that they no longer control you. It's about realizing that silence is stronger than any reaction. It's about embracing indifference as the ultimate act of power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Dark Stoicism takes this further. The best revenge is to act as if your enemy never existed. And that is what silence does. It erases them, not from history, but from your reality. The empire she cannot enter. Your silence is not just her punishment. It is your rebirth. Every hour you stay silent is an hour you build. Every day you stay silent is a day you grow. Every month you stay silent is a month you rise. And in time, you built something untouchable. A life, a future, an empire she no longer has the right to witness. That's the darkest truth. She'll regret losing you not because you destroyed her, but because you no longer needed her. She thought your silence was weakness. She never knew it was the weapon. Silence is not absence, it is empire. She will regret losing you, not because you hated her, but because you stopped caring. You punish not by striking back, but by disappearing forever. The eternal lesson. You see, silence is more than just strategy. It is a way of life, a code, a shield. It teaches you to withdraw when noise surrounds you. It teaches you to rise when the world doubts you. It teaches you to move with discipline when others move with chaos. And in love and betrayal, in life itself, silence is the one weapon that cannot be stopped. Because you cannot fight what you cannot hear. You cannot destroy what does not respond. You cannot break what does not bend. The final blow, when she remembers you, and she won't remember your words. She won't remember your anger. She won't remember your tears. She will remember the silence, the unshakable, unbreakable silence. And in that silence, she will hear the truth. She lost a king. She lost an empire. She lost the one man who refused to be broken. This is not healing. This is not therapy. This is not softness. This is be stoic. Here, silence is your weapon. Indifference is your shield. And regret is her punishment. Subscribe now, and remember this forever. She'll regret losing you when silence becomes your empire.